The Creative Collective. Collaboration, not competition.
This came from Martin actually. So Martin, do you wanna lead off, and then everybody can pipe up from there.
Yeah, I've been like, there's always people talking about, you've got to build relationships first, and then, then the sales will come from them people that you've built relationships with. But I was thinking about like, at what point do you know? I know sometimes it will just happen organically, and someone say, "Oh, I need you now." Now that we've had this relationship for a while, I do actually need your services. But at what point does it become okay to turn that relationship into one where you can actually start selling to that person? So, for example, over the past couple of weeks, I've been sending emails to my telecoms clients about a discount that I've got on. Some of them I've never met in person. It's just an email relationship. So I've got Christmas message discount that they can take advantage of. And I've had some people buy from that. Some are just like, no, thanks. But at what time, what are the processes or sort of steps that people go through to know whether it's okay to sort of go a bit harder than just, hi, how's it going? Great, let's have a chat every now and then and keep in touch. When can you start pushing harder on people that you know to see if they want to buy from you, and how?
It's an interesting one. I think my first thought when I had the question from you was, well, it does totally depend on where you are in the relationship. And actually, weirdly, the longer it goes and you haven't bought or sold from that person, it's slightly more awkward because you then become mates, and then you don't say, yeah, it's not something that kind of comes up. Whereas if you're introduced to someone from someone else and it's quite a hot lead to start off with, well then you both, yeah, that's the cause of that conversation, isn't it? Um, so I think it's a really odd one and a very strange one because the longer it goes, the more awkward it becomes for some people. Um, yeah, so I'm not sure how helpful that is really.
I, I
Go on,
think
Ed.
with those longer term relationships though, it's less about selling. It's more about just chuck it my way, mate. I'll do that. Like I'll have to
Yeah.
charge you, but I'll do that. It is hard though. I've got a few clients, or sorry, a few people that could potentially be clients, but I don't ever really sell to them anything, and I just haven't spotted the opportunity to be honest. And that's the thing. It's when you're having those conversations, it's just actually I know how this could be fixed or how I could provide a solution to this. Perhaps, yeah, perhaps just engage me, mate. That's the only way I could see it is just being a lot more casual. So rather than going through your list of benefits and features and all of that, it's just chuck it my way. They already trust you. You don't need to kind of build up that whole repertoire. So
Yeah, that's a good point. Mate, yeah, I suppose that's one way to get around the awkwardness because you're sort of you've got that relationship. You just say, yeah, I'll do that, and then there's no you've got all the awkwardness out in the first few months of the relationship anyway, haven't you? So yeah, that makes sense. Go on, Keith.
I think it depends on the context, first of all, because what Martin said about sending emails out is different to talking to somebody at a networking meeting, whether it's in person or online. So the examples I've got in my head are more talking to people sort of directly when you're there, either in person or online. But I'm always intrigued by this sort of talk of sales and British people intrinsically don't like being salesy, and they don't like being on the receiving end of being salesy. But I don't think sales has to be salesy. It should just be a conversation. Now, it helps if the person you're talking to has a need or a want. It depends, obviously, if it's a service or a product as well. But I think if you've got what the other person needs, then it should just be a conversation that logically ends up in either a sale or working together or helping each other or whatever it is. If it becomes too salesy, the shutters will go up, the defense comes down, and they sort of close down and won't listen. Whereas if it's just a conversation, and it might take a while, but I'd always say don't be salesy, just have a chat. The open questions like how's it going? And it's almost it might take a few chats to get to that point. But if you start off being too salesy, it will never get that far because the shutters will come down. But it's about building relationships, having a conversation, and hopefully when the person you're talking to has need or whatever it is that you can help them with, then it becomes a hopefully business for you. But it can take time, so it depends on the context. But say, yeah, don't be too salesy. Just have a chat.
On the point of time, there we had with the Creative Collective, we had something recently where Mark Lawrence joined, and he's been coming along sporadically as a visitor since the very beginning, and that just goes to show, it can sometimes be quite a long process before someone finally pulls the trigger and wants that product.
Well, I did that as well, didn't I, Martin?
I've got sorry. He's right there. Yes, exactly. But we're going through a thing at the minute. We're keeping tabs of who has had their 3 free ones, and we're sort of chatting amongst ourselves whether we can say, oh, you've had your 3 free ones, what do you think about membership? Or do we just keep leaving it? Because we want to grow the group, but we don't want to force people into making that decision now, if that makes sense.
I think people would expect you after the 3 free ones to kind of go, so have you found the 3 free ones? Are you interested in joining? Obviously, you can keep coming along, just paying as you go. I think I would expect that. I feel like I must have been proactive then, and you didn't have to say anything to me, because I'm sure I joined straight after my 3 free ones.
Yeah, I think you did, yeah.
But which is obviously a testament to all of you. But yeah, and I find I'm like you said, Keith, I don't really like doing sales in a conversation. I'm fine if kind of people have come along to a workshop I'm running, or I've been asked to run a workshop as a guest for people, and at the end I'll do a little bit of this is what Ready Steady Websites is, because I feel like people expect it on that kind of thing. If they've shown up to a workshop for free, they know that there's going to be a bit of, I want to get something out of it at the end. But just having chats with people, I don't like doing it, which is another reason I have free resources, so that I can say to people, do you know what? I think our website planning checklist would really help you, or why don't you come along to this? I think it'd be really useful. They have to sign up for that and get on our email list, and I'm much happier selling through emails, and I feel like they've given me permission then, and they can unsubscribe if they don't like it, and it's all done hidden behind my computer, and I don't have to have the embarrassing conversation. So yeah, so that's why I do that. But I connected with somebody after TCC yesterday, and I really liked his message I got from him after we connected on LinkedIn. It was and others of you have probably connected with him and had similar. It was obviously sort of at the base of it, a standard message he sends out, but had a bit of personalized sort of stuff in there as well. And it was very sort of gentle, kind of, if you want to check out my work and my portfolio and what I do, this is my website. If you ever find that you need what I offer, please do get in touch. But that was it. There was no like forcing me to have a one-to-one with him. I have booked a one-to-one with him after a bit of a conversation, but I thought that was really good. And I never do that. I never suggest they go and have a look at the website and find out more afterwards. So I've decided I'm going to start doing that. Because yeah, I just thought it was a really good, just light touch approach, but actually getting me to go and find out more about his business. So yeah, I'm going to steal the idea.
That's an interesting one, because I do that in email, but I don't do that in LinkedIn messages because it feels different somehow.
I think it worked because we had just been on a networking call. We had obviously done our intros. I'd heard a little bit about what he does, but not much, because I hadn't ended up in a breakout room with him. But what he does complements what we do. So I noted him down as someone to go and connect with. And so I think it worked. And I think if someone just connected with me and they just connected because we had connections in common, or seen me say something on someone else's post, I wouldn't do that. But I think after a networking meeting, it sort of felt like it worked, and I liked it. It was a good, gentle step forward, I felt.
Love that. You don't have to name names. We can always bleep it out. I don't know why you wouldn't want to name names.
Well, I just didn't name names in case he didn't want to be mentioned on YouTube. But it was Marv. Is it Bailey Creative?
Oh, he would have loved it. He'll love it.
Yeah, there we go. He was awesome. Great approach on LinkedIn. There we go. So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So
Just before I hear from someone else, on the LinkedIn connections thing, one thing that I did, and I don't know why I don't do it now, but one thing I used to do was any connection that I didn't know from networking, it was just a sort of a connection from LinkedIn. I would introduce myself and then say, is there anything that you'd like to discuss? Because, that's essentially why you're connecting. And that's quite nice because that opens up the discussion. And, 95% of the time they say, oh, I'm just building my network, and that's fine. But sometimes it's quite a good in, because, and I really like what you were talking about, Jude, having free resources that is a sort of a halfway house, basically. So it's carrying on that relationship. It's not being selly. You can say, it's completely free. Have a look if you like. And I presume you get their email or whatever. So yeah, it's you're getting collateral in that way. But yeah, I really like that. But I think having a sort of a standard LinkedIn follow up or introduction is quite a nice way to do it as well. Amazing. Thank you.
I was interested to hear that you prefer selling through emails because I I don't I don't prefer that route, and that's maybe just because it feels like effort to write an email to me, and I'd prefer to get people onto a call. And I guess a lot of the time though, people come to me rather than me chasing after them, and I probably need to do a bit more of the chasing side of things. So not saying this is the right way I'm doing it, but I find that if I can get somebody onto a call, so I train a call structure that just works really well for me. So you just kind of prepare everything, and the main bulk of it is you ask them questions first. So in a way, I kind of take control of the conversation by telling them what's going to happen in this conversation or what I'm hoping to get out of the conversation. Then start to ask them questions. And once you start to ask questions, people like to talk about themselves, their business, what's going on. Shows you have genuine interest in what they're doing as well. And then you kind of confirm that back to them and say, just so I'm clear, just to make sure I know what I'm on. I've listened properly. You've got this problem going on. This is the issue. Blah blah blah. Cool. Okay. Well, I'm pretty certain I can help with that. So then you're kind of confirming everything back to them, and that's then your opportunity to kind of tell them what service or package makes most sense for them, and this is how it's going to work. This is how I've done it before with someone else, and how it works. And then you follow up with some of the features and benefits and stuff like that. But that kind of approach has always worked better for me, I think, than sending over an email and hoping that I'm catching them at the right time.
Most of our emails lead to calls. Very rarely they'll just buy off the back of the email, but at least I didn't have to in person encourage them to have a call with me. I could do that through the email. And then most of the calls Chris takes. But once they've booked a call, I don't feel so bad about doing the sale because they actually want to know and they're obviously genuinely interested. But yeah, I'm not good at getting them into the call stage in person. I found I probably need to get better at it. It's definitely something I need to work on. I'm very good at chatting to people and having the silly banter and stuff, but I'm not very good at feeling comfortable having like a serious conversation. But yeah.
I think it has to be serious though. I think the structure that I use is there, but I generally have a just chinwag with people, and then kind of just it mentally in my head, but think, well, remember what's their time frame, what's their budget looking like, and stuff like that. And I forget half of that sometimes. But it's try and have those questions that are really important to find out about them. Just have it in the background, and I guess there's a little bit of a skill, and it takes some practice to do, but it certainly works because you get to their pain point, and then if you can even help them. If not, you might be able to refer them to someone else. And I don't see it as sales, more learning about them and then helping them to understand what their options are, if you see what I mean. I don't know, but get them from like networking conversation into having a call. Can't you just say, I'd love to continue this conversation. Can we just jump on a call?
Yeah, but then I feel like I've just got to have a chat. I don't feel like I can go, so do you need a website?
No, but talk to them about their business. Like, so what's going on in your world? What's what's the challenges in your business right now? People are quite happy to answer those questions.
Yeah, you're better at this than me, definitely. Whereas I have 5-minute conversations with people about common names like I did yesterday.
But I don't think that's a bad thing.
No,
Because
it's not.
everybody has, because if you really weren't, like, Ed is obviously very comfortable doing that, not comfortable, but he's good at that, and that's the sort of the process. Whereas Jude, I think if you really, or anybody that wasn't comfortable doing that, by you doing that, it probably wouldn't come across well anyway,
Yeah.
because it would be so clunky and inauthentic, I suppose. So I think everybody has different ways of selling, and sometimes maybe that is more on the like the longer form selling, where you do build up those relationships. But going back to the very beginning, when people are, and what Keith was talking about, and then when people are ready to buy, well, then you're more likely to go with someone who you class as a mate who you trust. So there's multiple ways to skin a cat, isn't there?
It also leads back to what Keith was saying. It depends on the context and the environment. Because if you've just been at a networking meeting and then someone sends you a follow-up message, you're more likely to be engaged by that because you've physically been to that meeting. So you're looking to grow or you're looking to speak to people. So it doesn't feel like you're being forced sold to.
And I think it also depends if you've been in a breakout room with that person, had a chat and said, "Oh, we should carry on," or if it's just somebody you saw in the TCC meeting yesterday, but didn't have a direct chat with them, but that you were both in the meeting, and then you send a connection request and sort of see where it goes from there. It depends sort of what's happened so far before you send the connection request.
Thanks, Keith. Yeah. Sean, and then Flea.
Yeah, well, what I was just going to say is, well, with what I do, especially when you go in person, and you go to other non-creative networking events, it's quite strange because you're the novelty, you're a gimmick. At the end of the day, so you start talking to people, you start talking to them about what their company are, and more often than not, you're not going to be selling to them, but you become that person that they remember because you're the one that's they go, oh, do a voice, or because they don't really talk to people doing what you do very often. And that's what I found a couple more times. I've got the relationship with the people that I talk to in networking, that kind of thing, but it's through them that they then refer me to other people because I'm that weird person that sticks in their mind, if that makes sense. But yeah, on the flip side of that as well, it's just kind of, yeah, I don't very often have that relationship with people before the job comes up, if that makes sense. It's in the other way. I do a couple of jobs with people, they become that person that they come to me, and then through that we then develop more of a friendship that then grows with that. So it's, yeah, I hope that makes sense. It just ended up being a bit of a ramble at the end.
That makes perfect sense. But that is kind of reinforces what we were talking about. Relationship first, and then yes, sort of selling is, or a lot of the time you don't even need to sell, do you? But Flea and then Keith.
I think, and what Sean's saying, it's about visibility as well. So I think that's vital. That's the one thing that's just been playing in my head, is that it's being in different places and being front of mind. Like even yesterday, I had a voice note from someone who we'd talked about doing a collaboration for maybe next year, but then it had gone a bit silent for a while. But she saw my post on Instagram about something else, and she was like, "Oh, I must give Flea a message." So she said, you know, that really is the power of social media and being visible. And I think, because I think timing is so vital as well. I don't know if it's for everything, but I guess it is, but definitely for photography. I think people need that impetus, or they need to feel ready. Sometimes I think I'm a bit too passive. So sometimes I think if someone's a bit interested, perhaps they need a bit of encouragement. They might need a bit of support getting across the line. I think I'm more of I wait till people are ready. I will check in with people, and I will say, like, you've mentioned this before, and how are you doing, you know, about that. And but I think being visible is just so important. There was someone else that commented on a shoot I'd done the other day, and so I connected with her because she'd made a comment, and she said, "Well, yeah, actually, I need my photos done too, but I'm not ready yet." But it just shows you, just by being on other people's posts and your own posts, and just being out there, keeps you front of mind.
Lee, do you think you mentioned being too passive, which I think is interesting. Do you think you've lost out on work because of that?
Oh, I'm not sure. I just wonder if I've not lost out on work, but perhaps it took a bit longer to get over the line
Okay.
because, like, someone I might have known for 18 months and then they sign up for a shoot, and that's fine, but maybe they would have gone for it earlier if I'd been a bit more encouraging and supportive or something. I don't know. Not sure.
Yeah, you
Um,
never know, do you? Of course.
you don't know.
Mm.
But I suppose I may be like that because I really don't like it when I have a one-to-one and suddenly I'm sold to. I've had that fair bit recently, and I can't remember if I was talking to you guys or somebody else about it. And yeah, I've had it a few times when I jumped on a call, you think you're just going to have a nice chat, get to know each other. And I think like the second message suddenly was like, I'd love another call. Oh, and by the way, I've got this course coming up and I think you'll be perfect for it. And I think, oh my God, we've literally only just met. And it makes me feel really uncomfortable because I wasn't actually looking for that. I hadn't expressed an interest in that. Um, yeah.
But also, the other thing that that does is, and obviously everyone could see this differently, but if I've ever come off to a one-to-one and it's been a nice chat, then as you say, you're sold to it, it kind of invalidates that one-to-one because you feel, oh, okay, so that's what that was about, rather
Yeah,
than
exactly.
getting to know the person behind the business. So
Yeah.
used is a too strong a word, but yeah, there's that feeling, isn't there?
Yeah, you can't get away from it, I don't think. I think you definitely an initial one-to-one. You are just getting to know each other. I think it's fine to say what you do because you do need to make it clear what you do. And you need to keep repeating that. Sorry.
That's all right.
Uh,
Right.
you do need to keep repeating what you do to get people to remember that and have it front of mind.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Flea. So we'll go Keith, and then I think Sean's hand was up, and then we'll go Evelyn.
Yeah, following up from what you said earlier, Ben, and what Flea's just said about just not being too salesy. If somebody sends me a connection request and I don't know them, or even if they do, if we've seen each other in a meeting, I'll usually just send a reply to say, thanks for connecting. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. Because I don't want to ram it down their throats. I don't want to be too pressured, but equally there might be something that they want to ask. There might be a reason why they connected with me. And that gives them opportunity to say so without being too high pressured, because I hate it when like Flea said, when you connect with somebody and the next message is a page and a half of why you should get a mortgage from them. I don't know you. Why would I come to you? Let's find out about each other first. And I mean, I don't know why they're still. Perhaps it works with some people and they're still doing it, but just leave the option there with them to get in touch if they want to, and see where it goes from there. That would be my recommendation. And just a quick tip with LinkedIn: this is what works for me, in case it's useful when I'm sending connection requests or accepting connection requests from people. I'll put in, like yesterday, I'd say it was great to meet you at the TCC meeting yesterday, or at wherever I met them, because then in 6 months' time, if you're trying to remember where you met them and you look back I can look back at the chat thread
Yeah,
and find
yeah,
out how we met each other.
yeah.
And I'm sure sometimes people think, well, I know where I met him. Why is he putting that in the message? But it helps me 6 months later because I never remember where I meet people. But then I can look back at the chat thread, and I've written where I met them. So it helps me. So in case it helps anybody else, you just include that in your introductory message.
That's genius. That's genius. I had a one-to-one the other day. He didn't turn up in the end, so it was fine. But I was racking my brain saying, why is this one-to-one in the diary? I don't know who this person is. Maybe I just totally dreamt it and just put it in my diary, sort of at 3 a.m. The sort of sleep walking and putting stuff in my calendar. But anyway, yeah, I like that, Keith. Thank you. Yeah, we'll go Sean, Evelyn, and then Martin after that. And then after we hear from Martin, still got a few minutes left yet. I just want to talk about, we've talked a lot, I think, about soft selling, like the longer approach. I want to know if anybody's taken the harder approach and how that worked for them. Sean, Evelyn, Martin.
Yeah, well, just going back on the back of Flea, what she was saying as well, because it's I'm very conscious. even talking to family, friends, and stuff like that, even if it's on the phone, even visiting, I feel like I'm being a pain in the arse anyway. So when I'm actually being there and going, right, I want to talk to you about maybe possibly getting work, then it kind of has that argument in my brain. This is the reason why I'm having this call. But then the other side is started to go, yeah, but you're being a bit of a pain in the arse. And so you then have that little dance, and then, as Jude says, you sort of have more of a conversation about it. And I think that's probably why more recently I've gone either the email route, or I'm doing more of the shop front, like P2P sites and stuff like that, just because you get in, they send you what you need, like they send you what they need, you send them what they need. It's kind of very more transactionary. And yeah, that it just keeps going that way. But yeah, you've still got to find a way to develop relationships, and I still do. But it's just, it feels a bit more comfortable for me if they come to me and just go, right, I need this, and you go, okay, I can do that. And then through having that conversation and having a little bit of chats in between, it just feels a bit easier to build a relationship that way, instead of just pouncing in and just going, yeah, I'm a loud boy. You need a loud boy? Yeah, you get a loud boy. Loud boy. Yes, yeah, buy me, kind of thing. But that's just, I don't know. It's it's that kind of thing. As an Englishman, you just go, oh no, you've got to approach these things subtly, old chap.
Thank you, Sean. Evelyn. Oh, you're on mute, Evelyn.
Yes, there we go. I'm trying to work out how to be a bit more insistent with getting somewhere when I'm speaking with people, but at the same time, I just think I still don't sound confident enough when saying my prices. But one thing that is working, that I think I'm going to keep doing, is every time I've just connected with someone, either after networking or just on LinkedIn, I said, thanks for connecting. If you'd like to find out more about me or my business, feel free to ask. And I've put a GIF with Lucky Lark saying, thank you for being you. Love, Lucky Lark. And that's been something that doesn't feel like, oh, I'm not selling to people. I'm not asking them for anything. And I've got people saying, oh, I love the GIF. And it gets them to remember the brand as well, which, again, if you remember the name, even at a point in the future, after you've spoken with someone, you'll think, yeah, they're the first person that come to mind. I'll speak with them, and I think that helps more than what I think we give it credit for sometimes. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, no, it's a nice way to sign off, definitely. And it's brand recognition, isn't it? Definitely. Thank you. Just piggybacking off that. Again, this is something someone told me years ago, is that even if you're speaking to people and it's just been a lovely general chat, so it's kind of at the relationship building, a nice way to end is, well, how can I help you? What businesses are you looking for? And then they'll generally, if they're a decent person, they'll say, oh, and you. So you can still have a nice personal conversation, but it still has that business end to it. So you're helping each other out, which I think is quite a nice way to end. Martin, go on.
And I think that was a tip on the Instagram account, wasn't it? Be a connector. Always ask if you can help them in a way that isn't necessarily what you do, because they might not want voiceover, for example. So I was just going to ask, following on from all of this, but flipping it around. So if you get the hard sell from someone, so a couple of weeks ago, I was on a different networking event, and within 5 minutes of coming off of it, someone had emailed me saying, I get awards for small businesses. Last year, I got someone a voiceover award. Let's talk about how I can get you some awards and pay me, obviously. And I didn't know how to react to that. I didn't like it at all. It was too fast. I didn't even speak to him in that meeting, not in any breakout rooms or anything. So how do people react to that stuff? Because if it happens on LinkedIn, I'm quite a fast block and delete kind of person. But you can't do that in email, especially if you might be going back to that group. So how would you respond to that hard sell?
There's a
If
whole-
I were you in that situation, I'd have gone, I've already got one, thanks. Didn't need your help. No, maybe not quite like that. If I have to admit, I just tend to ignore those quite often.
Yeah, yeah. But has so I mean I think most people would feel the same, especially in this country. It's just not kind of the done thing. And even if, to be honest, even if I needed that service at that time, if that was how they how they messaged me first, I would, yeah, that's a huge blocker for me. And I just probably wouldn't, I would just do exactly the same as you and ignore, basically. Because you've got to think, especially if it's quite a long project, you've got to actually work alongside this person. And if they're that kind of person, and they probably, they obviously do okay from it, potentially. Yeah, it's a big no from me personally. Evelyn, you had your hand up, then Keith.
Yeah, because I've had people that I've connected with or have asked to connect with me, and then they keep messaging me saying, "I think you'd love this workshop. Oh, this program sounds so suitable for you." And I think, right, and I think, yeah, I don't understand why you think it's perfect for me, where you don't know enough about me anyway. Like, I don't know, but oh, I forgot what I was going to say, but yeah, no, that's what I was just gonna say. I think, yeah, it doesn't sit well with me at all.
I think it would be totally different is if you had a good one-to-one and it was something that came up, and then they're connecting the dots and say, "Oh, this came up on my one-to-one. Just so happens that I've got a workshop. Just let me know if you want any more details." That, I think that's totally different. But if it's not related to anything, yeah, it just comes across as, like we were saying earlier, kind of you had a good one-to-one, but only you're being used essentially, just just to be messaged at. Keith.
Yes, just to answer Martin's question about what happens if ignoring them isn't an option and you're going to see them again. I think sometimes you just got to be straight up and go, well, hang on, let's find out a bit more about each other. Do you want to have a one-to-one, depending on if you do want to spend some time with that person? But that might be an option, and hopefully it might make them think about doing it again, even. But I think saying, hang on, slow down, let's find out about each other in a case where you're going to see each other again might work.
Love that. Yeah. Evelyn remembered, so that's good. And then we'll go Sean.
Yeah, sorry. What I was going to say regarding what Martin said, I'd say to him, "Have you got an award for getting people awards?" And then if he's like, "No," like, okay.
Sean?
Yeah, well, it was just again with the regards to the hard sell and stuff. I mean, when they must be throwing out those numbers just to everyone and everything. So I've got more used to I mean, as I said, like it's that kind of trying to be personable while doing it, but then just being blunt as well. Because it at the end of the day, it's not personal. If it's not working, you're not saying no to them as a person. Sometimes you might be saying no to them as a person because they're just not what you'd get on with. But yeah, especially with doing what I do, 9 times out of 10 or 10 auditions, I'll probably get one where they go, "Oh yeah, you might be in the running for it." So instead of just going, "Well, why haven't I done the other 9?" You've then got to just go, "All right, well, I wasn't their person. It's not personal. You just got to carry on with move on to the next thing." So just by saying, I'm just starting to say, "Yeah, sorry, not for me at this moment in time," and then just moving on, it just sort of gets it done, gets it finished, and moves on, for them as well.
Absolutely,
If that makes
because
sense.
it means they don't have to do another follow-up. Flea.
So I'm not doing very well today. I was just thinking about that as well. I think communication is so key, obviously in everything. But I wonder if even before you have a one-to-one, would it help even more if you make it clear why you're having a one-to-one? I mean, you don't have to. You could just say, let's have a one-to-one, have a nice chat. But you could also say, let's have a chat about. And then if you've got the sort of ground rules done before you start the chat, it might go better. Or you could say, let's just have a chat and get to know each other. But just, I suppose, if you make it clear before, then maybe it go more smoothly. Not sure.
Yeah. Well, especially if it's come from a chat in a networking group. So
Mm,
it could be a lead off of, oh, we chatted about this. Should we have a longer chat about it? You mentioned this or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, I quite like that. Yeah.
Mm,
Because the other thing about one-to-ones, and if we're seeing that as a sort of a marketing technique, which I think most people will agree long term it is, because, you know, I'm sure everybody here has, enough, friends. They don't need to sort of go on to one-to-ones to strike up friendships. It's conversations with a purpose at the end of the day, isn't it? So it's yeah, quite, and so then it comes down to quality, not quantity. And if you are going to have quality conversations because of
mm,
sort of prep before the one-to-ones, I quite like that.
yeah. And I say as well,
Good.
just from
Go on,
with
Flip.
Sean, I'm getting better at that as well. So if someone suggests something or asks you something, I tend to say if it's a real no, I'll just say no quickly because I feel better and I think they feel better. Otherwise, it'll hang over me and I think, oh God, I haven't replied. And so I sort of prefer just to say no, that's not for me right now. It doesn't mean you can't go back to them later, but at least you sort of know where you are for that moment.
Mm, yeah. Keith and then Matt.
Yeah, it was just following up from what Flea said. I've seen people when you're booking a one-to-one, like the Calendly form or equivalent, as well as choosing a date and time, they then have extra fields like what would you like to discuss or what do you want this one-to-one to be about? And then you can make that field compulsory if you really want to find out, or you just make it optional if it's a nice to have for the one-to-one. But you could build extra fields in when people to make them think about it when they're booking. So it's not just a random one-to-one. If you want it to have a distinct purpose, put extra fields in your booking form, and then you sort of make them think about it before you start.
Yeah, great idea. Matt.
I was just going to say on the hard sell side of things, it also very much depends on your industry, a bit like what Sean was touching on earlier. For me being SEO, everybody gets inundated with tons of emails. So you're going to appear scammy because all you see a lot of the time is we can guarantee you number one, we're going to get you here, we're going to do this, you're going to have 5,000 new visitors a month. So to try and stand out in that is going to be very difficult because you're so attuned to seeing them and just going delete. That's never going to work. So it's never been an approach I've taken, hard sales.
Yeah. That's an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah, I suppose that is very sector dependent. Um, just following on from that, and this not only with SEO, but probably, I mean, yeah, photography, videography, lots of visual stuff actually. Um, and maybe, this is related to everybody in the room. How would everybody feel about doing a bit of, so it's a bit hard selling, but doing a bit of groundwork. So for instance, just say I don't know Martin, and before our one-to-one, so maybe we don't know each other that well. I go on to, actually no, let's say I don't know him at all. So this is completely cold. And I go onto his website to look at his photos and do a kind of a visual audit. And my first message is basically saying, your visual content is rubbish. Shall we have a chat? Does that make it better? Even now, and also I do his photos. That would be really bad. But does that make that message better or worse? Because at least they've made it personal, but they're still going in with pretty bad news that you're leaving a lot of money on the table. What does everybody feel about that?
They could be a bit more constructive about it if that.
There's
So
probably
instead
better
of
ways to
saying
word
it,
it.
yeah, if instead of just going, yeah, they're like your website sucks, and I've had it a lot on my
Yeah.
like your website sucks. Instead of saying that, you just go, look, okay, there are a couple of points. Like it's good in the main point, but if we do X, Y, and Z, that might make things a little bit better for you, or come across more, or even with the like brand wise, if you just then go, well, look, this looks good, but then there's X, Y, and Z, and if you've got examples there that you think you could change, at least that would keep you open to the to the message that they've got, instead of them just going, "It sucks," because, well, I don't know about anyone else, but criticism like that I will literally just ignore straight away, because it's not constructive. It is just literally like a troll, so you might as well just go, yeah, do one. So
Yeah. Interesting. Evelyn, I think you had your hand up before my question, so did you have anything on that? And then we'll go Jude and Flea.
Yeah, I was just going to say, when I have one-to-ones, I before we get to talking, I say, is it okay if I take notes during the call, just so that I can make sure to remember everything properly that we've discussed, and so that I make sure I don't, get anything wrong when we next speak. And 99% of the time I say, yeah, that's fine. And yeah, that's helped me knowing the best way to reach out to people. And, I record everything anyway, everyone I've spoken to, every meeting I've attended, just to get a better idea at where the work has come from and why. And also regarding if people say, oh, this could be doing a better job of marketing your business, I have been advised, you can offer free audits for people, but I'm still trying to work out how to do this without saying, oh, you need my help. Or it's just a way of saying, like, oh, your website could be working better for you based on what you've told me. Yeah, because it's like you don't see adverts saying, oh, what you're currently doing is shit. Here's how we can help, It's wording it properly, and I think probably doing it emotively as well, getting an emotional reaction, because people buy with feelings, they don't buy based on facts. So I think it's along those lines as well.
Love that. Thank you, Evelyn. So we've got a couple of minutes left before we move on to the tasks. So we'll go Jude and then Flea.
Yeah, in regards to like the giving people feedback as a way in, the only time I've ever done that is if people's websites are actually down, because I feel like that is useful for them to know, and they don't want a website that's down sitting there and people, they think sending people to it merrily and there's nothing there. Because because we've received emails, I feel like people haven't even looked at our website. So I can help you with your website. Have you seen what we do? So yeah, I do feel that, the only time to do it is if it's actually really genuinely going to help them and they'll be grateful for the feedback rather than just insulting what they've got out there.
Yeah, nice.
Oh, well, I was just going to use you as an example, Jude, because I had a meeting with someone and I don't think it was meant to be about websites. It was about content writing, but I think the lady's sister was a website designer. And she did kind of go on to slate my website. It was just, pretty soul destroying. And even just sort of laughing about the title, and I don't know, it was pretty bad. Anyway, and I spoke to Jude very soon after. Actually, we had a one-to-one, and Jude was brilliant because she gave me some constructive criticism, so things I could change and improve, because there's always things to improve anyway. I would love to work with Jude one day, but I have my website and she just really helped me. And God, you just completely picked me up after having such a terrible experience. So I think just being constructive, being helpful and kind, being kind is always good.
Being kind. Yeah.
And if it's asked for, it's completely different, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like that's
Yes,
fine
I did
if
ask.
someone asks.
Yeah.
But just randomly go in. Do you know what? Your website needs work. It's a little bit, soul destroying for people. Because especially if they just put their heart and soul into it last week. Yeah.
Keith, bring us home, mate.
This is just a random tip to about one-to-ones and arranging one-to-ones. If you've got somebody specific that you want to arrange a one-to-one with, I use a service called Zcal, which is like an alternative to Calendly, but you can customize it a lot more. So I can set up a page with a personalized URL. So if I wanted to arrange a one-to-one with Ben, I could have zcal.co/one-to-one with Ben. So it's a personalized URL. You can personalize the page. You can upload the background. I tend to take people's LinkedIn backgrounds. So the page is customized to them. You can record a little headshot video on the page to talk to them. And it just makes a much bigger impression if there's somebody you really want to have a one-to-one with and really want to talk to, rather than just sending them a random Calendly link. If you personalize a page with a URL and a video and selected dates, it really makes an impression on them and tends to get you, in my experience, gets you the meeting. So
Yeah.
I'll put a link in the chat just as an alternative to Calendly if there's somebody you really want to talk to. If a little bit of effort, and it can really pay off.
That's a great tip. Thank you, Keith. Love that.